Morning, afternoon, rather, everyone. This meeting is being recorded, and I'm looking at our list here. So we have, let's see, we're waiting for, oh, well, other people are entering, so let me do that. Good afternoon, folks. We're going to give a few more, about a minute or so for other people to join. This meeting is being recorded, and we're going to be posting it on the website once it's downloaded here. It looks like we have everyone, so I will begin. Good afternoon. It is Monday at 1:01 p.m. On October 24th. This is the first meeting of the Benton County Tox Trash Subcommittee C1 Sustainable Materials Management Plan agenda. We will do introductions in a second, and Daniel, while we're doing that, I'm asking you to put up the agenda, if you'd be so kind. All right.
Can everyone see that?
Yes. Thank you. All right, so welcome. I'm Samuel Parati. I am the facilitator, and we will go around the room and make introductions, and I'll start based on how I see folks on my screen. So Marge, you're up first. Unfortunately, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. And so I'm a member of the work group, and I'm very interested in forging a solid waste and sustainable materials management plan for our county. And to do that with environmental goals and community goals and values in mind.
Thank you. Daniel.
Hey everyone, Daniel Reddick here with Benton County. I'm the solid waste program coordinator here, and just looking forward to talking about sustainable materials management planning with everyone.
John.
Hi everybody, John Duell. I'm the recycling manager at Oregon State University. I'm a member of the community outside of Philomath, and I am a former member of SWAC.
Brian,
Hey, good morning, everybody. Brian May, Marion County Environmental Services Division Manager. As mentioned before, been in the industry, solid waste in Oregon for over 30 years. Very interested in this process. This is a process I'll be taking our county through here in the near future.
Sean,
Sean McGuire with Benton County. I'm a sustainability coordinator, and just like Daniel, looking forward to the conversation.
and the Schmidt Pathman.
Yes, hello. Sorry about, I'm not quite there yet. My name is Philip Schmidt-Pottmann. I'm actually from the Institute for Energy and Resource Management, based out of Seattle, Washington. And we've started to get an interest in what's happening in Benton County because, you guys getting a huge load of waste in the landfill, and we're very familiar with waste and landfilling and alternatives, integrated waste management systems and such. So we're interested to learning more about what's happening, and obviously we have a lot that we could contribute if desire ever rises. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Hi, I'm Debbie, and I'm on SWAC, and I was just here to listen.
Yeah. Thank you. Camille? Camille? We'll give her a chance to come back. Jen?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Brown. I'm with Benton County Sustainability Program. I'm also Sustainability Coordinator, as Sean is, and I am Sean's.
Hi, sorry, I couldn't get to my window.
No
So
problem.
I'm a member of the public, and I live near Coffin Butte, and I'm very interested in this process and in the public comment, especially the need to incorporate public comment.
Would you be so kind as to give us your full name?
Now I can't hear anybody else.
Camille?
Yeah,
Would you be so kind as to give us your full name?
Camille Hall, H-A-L-L.
Thanks so much. Jen,
You're
why
welcome.
don't you finish up?
Well, I was just saying that I am Sean McGuire's alternate for the Benton County Talks Trash work group, and I work with him at the county.
Great. Tom?
Yeah, this is Tom Hughes, and I am a neighbor of the Coffin Butte, and I'm very interested in the Sustainable Materials Management Plan, which I understand has not been updated since 1977, but I could be wrong. And
Welcome.
I'm here to listen.
Welcome. Thank you. And Joel had to get off and is getting back on now because his microphone was problematic. So we'll give him a second to get his audio and video on. He can introduce himself. Joel, we're just doing introductions.
Okay, I'm here. It's me, Joel Geyer. I think everyone's met me before.
Welcome, everyone. Next up is to review the charge for this subcommittee, and Daniel, if you be so kind as to bring that up. So this really is a copy and paste from the Benton County Talks Trash Charter. It's based on the assessment I did earlier in the year, made recommendations to the board for a charter. They adopted those recommendations. And this is called Charge C, as in Charlie, scope the necessary tasks to start a long-term SMMP process. The word scope was chosen with specificity and deliberation because we are not going to be doing an SMMP during the Benton County Tox Trash Work Group period of time. Our task is to set up and provide recommendations to the board as to what the SMMP process and its contents could look like. So that includes topics like, do we do this in-house? Do we contract out? Is it a combination of contracting out and in-house? Second topic is to scope the subjects that should be covered in SMMP. And as the members of the work group know, we've had Daniel put together a draft of what other SMMPs have looked like. That went to the work group as homework to provide their comments and on what that so-called table of contents could look like. That table of contents is likely to be part of any RFP that goes out to secure any outside consultants. Next is to who needs to be at the table beyond those in the county. To what extent, if any, should the membership of any work group or committee include folks outside of Benton County? A draft work plan outline of the timeline to complete the SMMP. As Darren Nichols, the community development director, indicated a couple of meetings ago, the board has put aside roughly $500,000 to do this work, and it's suggested it would start after this work group, or BCTT as we call it, completes its work. We would also look at topics covered in recent similar planning efforts across the state. Some of that work has been merged into the table of contents, and then look at what lessons learned should be brought forward into this process based upon their journey to create an SMMP. And that is the scope in a nutshell. There is, Dan, if you can move down a little bit, the original charge included some cost benefit work. The updated work plan, which the commissioners will consider tomorrow, does not include a robust benefit cost analysis at this stage, but in fact, that would be reserved to the actual SMMP planning. And then depending on how much work we get done in what time period, there is a possible amendment request for the board to consider, which they haven't been given yet, because we need to get some subcommittees under us and see how we progress. Is when we look at the table of contents for any potential SMMP, and another charge could be a subcommittee to provide recommendations on the most important topics or subjects in the draft table of contents, brainstormed options for those subjects, and reasoning both in pro and con for their selection. That is going to be a major lift. Let's see if we can do it. If the board adopts the pending updated schedule, we would complete our work in February with a report in March. And but at no point are we anticipating that we actually pick what options for each of the topics in the SMMP, but simply does the list taken as a whole make sense for consideration. So that's the scope. I'll pause there and see if there's any member questions on the scope, and then I'll open it up to a public comment period, and then we'll dive into the actual work at hand. So any work group subcommittee members, any questions about this scope document? All right, hearing none, we'll assume that's understood. I'll open it up very briefly to members of the public who are observing. If they would like to each make approximately a 1-minute statement or comment or question, I'll take it away, and I'll have, if you could raise your hand feature, I'll call on you in the order that I see you. And sir, I'm sorry, I did not catch your first name, but your hand is up so everyone can see you, so take it away. And your hand is down, okay?
Oh, no, actually, yeah, I put the head down before I put my mute off. Sorry about that. Just a really quick question. My name is Philip Schmidt-Pottmann, Institute for Energy Resource Management, as I said. And we're trying to figure out, is this gonna, because obviously you, like Benton County only produces, we understand, about 60,000 tons or so of the waste going to the landfill. And you're getting over or nearly 1 million tons from the outside coming there. When designing an integrated solid waste management system or a sustainable materials management plan, will this include looking further out to trying to figure out which community is sending out the waste there so that something can be established in conjunction with them? Or what exactly do you have in mind? Thank you.
Well, the short answer to that question is that's what this subcommittee is designed to recommend, the questions that should be part of the ultimate SMMP. So no decisions have been made at this point. Any other member of the public have any questions or comments? All right, hearing and seeing none, let's go to the process, protocols, and goals for this process. So the goals for the process are to for the subcommittee to take the charge, look at the work of the subcommittee that has, of the work group that they've already done, organize that, vet that, and have a subcommittee report for full work group consideration as to the contents of section or chapter C, charge C, on the SMMP. The process protocols, Dan, those were part of another email, were they not? Was there not a actual handout for that you might find?
Unless it was what is attached to the agendas in the past for.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But that's it. I mean, basically, we're gonna. I'll see if I can find it when you take over. But it's basically going to be a series of, 2, 3, maybe 4 meetings between now and the end of the year, teeing up those questions in the order that makes sense to the subcommittee to take on and go forward. The major time is going to be spent with you all, like I use the term, vetting these documents so that the full committee will have a better understanding, and you'll be able to discuss with them what they should contain and what they should not contain. The other part of the agenda, as you can see here at the end, is to prepare for this Thursday's meeting to discuss what particular things you would like to report out or get guidance from them on, and then schedule the last meetings and adjourning promptly at 2:30. So that's the overall agenda process we're going to use. So at one of the last meetings, there was discussion of the work group and also subsequent discussion with one or more members of the Board of Commissioners about incorporating the vision work that the county has done. And that makes sense to do that. And it's going to be introduced on Thursday formally, but we wanted to tee it up there. And Daniel put together a draft document for you all to push against, edit to, and I'll let you take it away, Daniel, and show them the evolving document and the process for moving that discussion forward. Marge has a question
Yeah,
or
I just have
comment.
a real quick question,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, did we receive a copy of this agenda? And where is it posted?
Daniel?
So I have posted the agenda to the work group webpage, kind of subcommittee dedicated page. I'm going to share
And where is that?
I'm going to share a link to it here. If you go to the main work group page and you scroll
Oh, then
down,
I
there's
see under
subcommittees.
meetings, then there's an agenda under the meeting. Okay. I just didn't scroll down far enough.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to go ahead and send a chat to everyone so you have the agenda, and I'm going to chat over the link to the subcommittee page. Okay, any other questions before I dive into this first one? Okay. Can everyone see my screen? At the top, it should say draft values and goals. Excellent. So I did, at Sam's request, I put together a document that is really intended to highlight some of the kind of existing goals that might relate to sustainable materials management planning or core values, like we've talked about in 2040 Thriving Communities Initiative. I've also put together a set of goals that are at the state level that might relate, as well as the way that values and goals have been communicated in other management plans. And keep in mind, a lot of these are solid waste management plans as opposed to sustainable materials management plans, but they're pretty close. But these are referencing the same documents that you've seen in the past. So I just wanted to briefly get started, go through it, and then I was hoping to get feedback from each member just on initial thoughts and questions, anything like that. Does that work for everyone? All right. So at first we have the Thriving Communities Initiative. This is language that's posted to the Thriving Communities Initiative webpage 2040. But here is the visual, which I think does a really nice job, and sort of the explanations for each. But we have vibrant, livable communities, supportive people and resources, high quality environment and access, diverse economy that fits, community resilience, and then it's wrapped around aspects of equity and health. So equity for everyone and health in all actions. There's a considerable amount that went into the Thriving Communities Initiative development that I'm sure Sean McGuire can speak to more if needed. But I think we can probably, for now, jump down to other documents, values, and goals considerations. So I compiled a few that we've taken note of in the past during planning processes. One is the state of Oregon goals that relate to solid waste reduction, solid waste recovery, or greenhouse gas emissions. So first are some executive orders that you see up here at the state level, as well as Chapter 459, which sets specific waste reduction and recovery goals. And then we reference the same Chapter 459 document for Benton County's specific goal that's written in the statute, as well as the county's greenhouse gas emission goals, the latest rendition in this resolution here. Any questions on or comments on some of the kind of state or county goals that we're referencing here?
I had one question, Daniel.
Yeah.
Do the greenhouse gas emissions goals include emissions from the landfill?
No.
If I can, Daniel, just real quick, our county's greenhouse gas reduction goal is only for county government itself. Our facilities, our fleet, stuff like that, our commute, those items. So it's only county government.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
Of course, Joel. And actually, while Joel, just real quick, I'm sorry, Joel, Daniel or Sam, if I can, as a comment, I if we're at the stage of just having placeholders, I don't have, just so we're all clear, I actually facilitated the development of our community core values. It was a 2-year process that we'll get into later this week. I think I haven't confirmed that with Sam. But Daniel, if this is more of a placeholder, I'm fine with this now. But at this point, it just kind of it's just kind of stuck there, and there's a lot of background. And I don't want to turn it into a Hemingway novel or anything, but some context as opposed to hey, here are these 7 things. But if that's what your thought is, Daniel, I'm fine right now.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, there's just so much context here, and I can maybe leave it up to Sam on how we want to dive into different aspects of this. I think the idea here is we're trying to get a kind of a high level of what types of things should be considered when we're talking about values and goals. But all of these have a lot of context too, including state and local goals outside of the 2040 values. So I'm not really sure how to handle that in this meeting, but that's a really good point.
Daniel, can you scroll to the top of this document, please? And for the note. So I think that really is the setting the stage. And you can give you a second to read that there. So I think getting to Sean's question, sometime today or tomorrow, there will be a meeting with Daniel, Sean, myself about the presentation to the full work group on setting the context for this. But it really is to tee up one sub-element of the SMMP portion of the charge, which is the table of contents that Daniel will get to in a minute has chapters on what's the vision, what are the values, what are the goals of this process, and then this piece will be part of one or more of those chapters to make sure that we obviously include those values and goals going forward, but how they apply to specific things to do as a result of an SMMP are for that formal process. So any suggestions, comments? John?
Yeah, I think, well, if you're looking for feedback, I'd say yes, these broader community values, goals, particularly that deal with environment, health, public health, should be included in that part of the recommendations. The one caveat kind of relates to what the question was just recently about what exactly do these goals affect? And to me, these goals are on how the county leads the government for its people, for the people of Benton County. But I think there needs to be maybe some mention of, certain parts of this pertain more to the operation of government offices and operations and services, like Sean mentioned, because that could be confusing. For example, if we're looking at Joel's question, what does this affect, what's included, what's not, materials management is all over the county. And I think we're intending that that the broad goal of this effort is to come up with a plan that affects not just county, but the county services, but also the anywhere waste is generated in the county waste shed.
I think that's right. I mean, that this is a tool that, if I'm understanding the conversation, was created by the county to guide its internal work, but it also has external applications. Am I getting that correctly, or am I missing the boat here, folks?
We can get into this a little bit more when Sam, Daniel, and I meet. I can tell you it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Again, there were 10,000 comments received from over 4,000 people. An outside body created these, identified these, and we internalize them as a government, but also, yeah, these are, I would say, principles. They're not criteria or a hammer. It's just, they're principles on what our community values. So I'll leave it at that.
So my suggestion here to get ahead of this is that a paragraph or a PowerPoint or a context memo on top of this would be helpful for the whole work group to see and discuss as part of any oral presentation and Q&A, so that the context is fuller. Marge.
Yeah, I just want to point out that one of these core values is to encourage entrepreneurship in our community. And we right now have a solid waste management entity that is a monopoly. And I just want to point out that that's counter to the value of developing entrepreneurship among our own population. And so I think that's an important value that should be considered along with conservation and environmental and health and all those values as well.
Okay, great.
I had a quick comment about, I think more along the lines of the context of these core values, along with the context of other goals. And it's sort of a good segue into why we've included goals and values as how they are expressed in other plans. I think one kind of really obvious plan that incorporates values and vision and goals is from Metro, but you really see how some of these sort of similar values end up being used in a sort of practical way to develop their planning process. So I really encourage just looking through some of those plans and sort of seeing how that works, and particularly I think paying attention to Metro's plan that we've highlighted in this document. I think it just is a good example of how it could be used.
Okay. Any more comments or thoughts or suggestions for improvement? This will get teed up and presented on Thursday for a more robust conversation, and we'll figure out the mechanics offline. All right, Daniel, what would you like to talk with folks about next?
I don't have a ton on the rest of the values and goals. The next document that I was hoping to review is the table of contents, but I just wanted to make sure we kind of captured everything, especially since we haven't really don't really have time to dive into the values and goals as expressed in kind of comparative plans. But any thoughts from the group on that? I can go one at a time if it's more comfortable for everyone. And this document can be accessed via the latest link that I shared at the bottom in supporting documents under SMMP values goals.
Yeah, just a comment from Joel here. I just thought Lane counties were really interesting to look at, so I'd like to explore those more on Thursday.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, I don't mean to leave out any really excellent demonstrations of values and goals. I think these are really good places to look and get a feel for each of these jurisdictions, but certainly Lane County does a really nice job at kind of demonstrating that as well. There's also kind of a difference between goals and values at an organizational level, as well as goals and values at a department level or like a program level. I think Lane County does kind of a nice job of demonstrating the kind of departmental or program level values and goals as well. So that's another consideration here.
And I note for the recording that Greg Storms has has joined our meeting. Welcome, Greg. All right, take it away, Daniel.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the table of contents. I think that's where we've already done a lot of work along with the homework. And this document is just like the one that you've already seen as sort of the latest homework roll-up. The only addition that we've made today is jumping down to the chart here, pardon the scrolling. The only addition that we've made is incorporated X's to work that Benton County's previous planning efforts have started to incorporate. So just kind of highlighting the type of work that's kind of already been explored. But again, it's very similar to what we've already put together. The comments that you've had during that homework period has been incorporated. And I really was hoping to get any more feedback. I know that you know, we've had this in the homework opportunity, but hearing feedback on some of the topics that you'd like to be included or not included could be helpful at this point.
Well, let's scroll up to the top, Daniel, to set the stage here for this. So for a reminder, staff did a draft document incorporating topics from other jurisdictions that went out to the work group to comment. 6 members provided detailed comments. They are color coded as noted here on page 1. And then the real goal of this is for this subcommittee to go through first the table of contents. If you could scroll down to that so we could see the beginning of that. It is to first go through this combined table of contents and make sure that you all are comfortable that all of the right topics are listed there in the right way. And then part 2 of that exercise will be, if time permits, do we have them in the right order, the general right order for this purpose? And then the third task is that additional task, if we have time, to spend some more time drilling down to priority topics and or brainstorming options topics. So that's the charge. And I guess we are looking to the work group members to hear what you believe would be the best way you would like to work on this. What does that look like to you? Is it at the next meeting, starting at the top of this and going through it? Is it taking this existing draft with all the draft changes and trying to work out some emerging consensus thoughts between now and the next meeting? How do you envision this process working best for you? John.
I think going through it section by section, you know, so we're thorough and, you know, describing what we think these things mean and then getting a consensus. If there's disagreement, let's talk about it. And, you know, and I think it's really a consensus on, is this important for the end product? Is it is it needed, or, you know, is it something that's not as important? Because, you know, I think we have to be efficient as well as thorough in this. So I don't know, that could be time consuming, but if we have a lot of stops, you know, and discussions, but perhaps we can try to limit our comments to the ones that we think are most important.
Other thoughts, Marge?
Yeah, I noticed, like just in the executive summary, there's a section called introduction. Will you take a crack at writing what that introduction is for each element so that we have a sense of what we're trying to accomplish in each of these sections? Does that make any sense?
Sure. So let's, if you can, Dan, if you can go to the top, I want to make sure we're all looking at what Marge is referring to.
Well, actually, I was referring to the document that, like, just looking in the executive summary, we have the first topic, introduction. And so I'm assuming that in every section, there probably is a corresponding little paragraph where it describes what that section's purpose is. And, you know, I think it would make sense, first of all, to take each one of these sections and say, okay, what's the purpose of this section? What's the purpose of that section? And then we have a framework within which to, you know, put all these details into.
So let's, can you scroll down a little bit, Dana, below executive session? What are the major headings?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of headings have been added here. One caveat is that this used to say summary and the intent was executive summary. So I think a lot of these ended up being here as sort of in a chapter 1 introduction. But this is the content that would be included in the executive summary.
What I'm getting at is that throughout this process, we've done piecemeal things. And to me, it just makes a lot of difference to know where am I starting with? What are the main points? And then drill down on the main points to details. And in this process, in this document, to me, looks like a whole bunch of details. And then we're supposed to abstract some you know, core meaning from the details. And you know, maybe we could do that, but if that were done, that would be a statement about each section saying these are the major purposes, these are the major items that need to be included in this in a plan like this.
Well, keep scrolling down. Go ahead, Marge.
Yeah, but that we started with, say, a PowerPoint that had 10 things on it. And then, you know, we kind of drilled down on those 10 things. It just makes more sense to me to see an overall picture and then put meat on that skeleton.
Continue down so everyone can see the more of the document. So I guess my thoughts are that right now it may benefit that Daniel, and if anyone, you know, wants to create a subcommittee of 1 or 2 people, might go through this and clean up this draft a little bit, because I'm not sure it's ready for prime time. So we could add a little context for, you know, what's the goal. The overall goal is literally simply to create a table of contents that lists the types of considerations the SMMP should include from the time it begins to the time it ends and makes a recommendation. And so we're basically saying, we recommend that the RFP the county sends out tell the prospective consultant that we want them to design a process and a plan that includes a discussion of all these topics that are in the table of contents. That's the extent of it. Not to say, and our particular goals are, or we think there should be an incinerator, a transfer station, and a ban on counties outside of Benton bringing their waste in.
Right, Sam, but how would you summarize that concept that you just said some details about?
Well,
No, go on.
No, I was going to say, I think we can put a paragraph in the beginning of this to summarize that and have that happen before. So I have Joel, then Brian as the cue.
Yeah, I think I understand what Marge is saying here, which has been sort of my feeling all through this. It really helps to look at the big topics first, decide what are in those. We've got lots of detail here, but we're sort of like jumping right into the depth of the details.
Yeah.
But if we could start with the discussion, I think of, say, for example, right now we see number 8, alternative technologies in solid waste disposal. What do we mean by that? What do we mean by landfill disposal options? And take a sort of a structured approach to this, where you're looking at the number 1 things in the outline first, and then drill down to the detail. I mean, I think if we just start at the beginning of this and plow through it one thing at a time, we're just going to be lost.
I agree. I mean, it would help a lot just to have a document that showed what all these sections were. Pull out all these sections out into another document and start with that.
Pull out the detail and just look at the colored sections. Roman
all
numeral.
The ones numbered 8 is 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Start there.
Okay. Daniel can certainly do that. Brian, you're up next in the queue.
Yeah, no, and I just want to second what Marge and Joel are saying, because for me, at least my brain thinks the same way, is to pull back, look at each individual section and understand the purpose of what we want to have, as a definition of that, like I said, number 8. So we kind of know what we anticipate being in there. And then we can go back later and actually feed in some more of the outline and put more meat on the bones. I like the skeletal approach. And then that clarifies for me too, that we're all on the same page for each section as to what we're talking about. And maybe we need to add sections or delete sections, but that way we understand kind of the whole scope.
Yeah.
Okay, John.
I agree with what's been suggested about capsulating the intent of having a particular section. As long as I guess we have to try to continue to steer clear of actually deciding on content or what the end result would be. Try and keep the open, keep ourselves open to how the consultants find this.
Daniel.
I agree pretty strongly with what John just said, mainly because, having gone through all this and collected this table, the interpretation of each of these sections vary, right, by county and by plan. So if I were to go in and pick apart each county's interpretation of this and present it to you, it'd be akin to my recommendation as a Marge. Do you mind if I finish really quick? It would be similar to sort of my recommendation. And I think what could be another really helpful way to go about this is sort of the skeletal approach with all of your feedback and the work group's feedback on what the work group is hoping that looks like. For example, alternative technologies in solid waste disposal. You obviously have the links to the documents where those appear, but maybe having a moment to digest that and interpret that for yourselves and then present that back to the rest of the work group that could be a really excellent way to start, as opposed to, a set of recommendations from me.
Yeah,
Marge?
I just want to clarify that I never asked for a set of recommendations. What Joel and Brian and John are saying are what I had in mind.
Great.
I think we should, okay, and just a trivial thing, lose the color. And just start with these skeletal items, and yes, this is a great asset now. Once we start looking at the basic items and saying this is important. These two look like they're about the same. This is more important than this. Then we could start having that discussion, and then a document like this would be really handy to go and produce some kind of perhaps encapsulation of what we think that these topics mean, perhaps. Yeah, okay.
Good. What other process suggestions for teeing up this document for the most efficient, fair, reasonable way that works for you all?
Just a comment in the comments from Philip Schmidt-Pathman, just emphasizing the need for educational understanding of what are the alternatives behind these different things before we get into discussing them. I think that would be actually really useful. I don't think most people really know what are, some of us have been in SWAC for a while. We've already looked at some alternatives, but I think some people that are new to this might not have actually even looked at some of these things.
So let's play that out a little bit to make sure I'm understanding the suggestion. What specifically would you suggest, Joel, happen perhaps at a work group meeting, not Thursday, but maybe the next work group meeting, to tee up this subcommittee's work product for it to digest more fully?
Well, what I'm suggesting actually is for if we could get someone coming from outside that would just give a nice lecture on, these are the current state-of-the-art possibilities that are being considered in, state of the counties that are developing these and nations that are building these plans now. What are the list of options? What are some of the pluses and minuses about them?
Well, but see, here's the thin and the slippery line here that's always been a tension point is that it's not the goal of this exercise to necessarily list those options that are available, and certainly not to make a recommendation that of the 7 options for this goal, we think number 6 is the one that should be looked at most.
No, but if we're going to set a timeline for how this gets implemented and suggest, things like budgets and, what are the steps that a contractor would go through for this? I think we need to have some sense of how much effort should go into things like looking at alternatives.
Okay, Brian, you're up.
Yeah, and maybe you can share a little bit, Joel. I mean, in working with consultants and planning efforts, I think you're really gonna more for the scoping exercises to make sure you get the right consultant that'll do those things. So you're gonna want somebody with experience maybe on landfilling or some of these other alternatives. They will explore a lot of that at the direction of the process of building this management plan, where they will explore things that we've never thought of, which is, I think, exactly what you're looking for. But we won't do that on the front end. We'll do it more in that process, and then also with the community involvement and everything else, because there are going to be other ideas and other people that participate with something else from somewhere else that'll kind of add to that as you go. I think you just want that flexibility and not to define that scope so tight that you miss out on all those all those items. So, and then I think it's kind of back to whether it be SWAC and the board of commissioners as to how far reach do you want to go, like you said, from a dollar aspect or whatever else. Those will be some of those recommendations that will come forward through the plan.
Other thoughts? So let me see if I am accurately capturing what may be an emerging process consensus, that the next step will be for staff, read here, Daniel, to take this existing document. This will stay in place as a reference document, but go through it and take the chance to create a new document with what I'll call the high level topics, the Roman numeral topics. Remove the colors from them, put them in a place so they could be readily seen. Then at our next steering committee meeting, we'll facilitate a conversation amongst all of you that generally outlines what could or should be considered by whomever is doing the ultimate SMMP work, to make sure that, if you will, they have the beginnings of a scope of work to know these topics need to be covered. And then as that evolves, we can, to the extent you all want to, go down to the next layer, which are the things here, and I'm just using this as an example because it's on the screen. Roman numeral 8, the text that's in white, A, B, C, and D, may be the next level if we get to that. Can I show like a thumbs up if I'm kind of getting it this way, or a thumbs down if I'm been facilitating another meeting and missing the content?
Sam, could I suggest something else?
Of
Is
course.
that if that document were circulated real quickly, then maybe we would all have an option to comment on it, so that at our next session, we would know what different people thought about the maybe how those sections should be oriented, like what direction they should go in, and just kind of be open to making comments. That we could then, and then receive that a couple of days at least before our next meeting, and then we could discuss that. But then that'd give everybody a chance to make some comment on each of these things.
Sure. I think it's a good suggestion.
Does anybody else want to do that? Okay.
Joel's given a thumbs up.
Marge, is the suggestion just to get it out quickly? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Get the skeleton out quickly and then let us make comments on it. I mean, you can make comment, staff can make comments too, but I just see a lot of expertise on this screen here in front of me, and I would like everybody to participate in this and to bring their skills to the table immediately, because we don't have that much time. And it would be to me that the first priority is to create a structure within which that can happen. Which I think we're really getting towards.
Yeah, I think we're moving in that right direction. It just so I'm sure I'm probably the densest one here on this topic, because I have always acknowledged I lack subject matter expertise here. But if you just look at the table of contents, the Roman numeral numbers, almost by definition, you're going to want to include some version of those topics in an SMMP table of contents. Are you not, or am I just, am I missing that state at that level? If someone could tell me affirmatively, yes or no, that what I just said makes sense or is nonsense, that would help.
Just from our experience developing the drafted SMMP, some things like the extent of diving into disposal options are important to clarify here because by definition, sustainable materials management planning does not necessarily include some of these aspects. So I think defining those are important.
Okay, well, that sounds like a threshold issue. I mean, to what extent is this an SWMP, an SMMP, a combination thereof? Where's the emphasis on the M or the W? I mean, is that a discussion you all need to have?
Well, I mean, SW is kind of a subset of SM, right?
That's what I understood from Joel's definitions, but there was the differences. One, the SMMP is more of a full life cycle sort of thing, and the SWMP is just, what do you do with the stuff in the landfill? It's not as robust an analysis as an SMMP. Did I get that right, Joel, or no?
Well, the MMP is really about what's sustainable in terms of global climate as a priority. I think I was just going to say, I think it would actually be useful if this group had a look at the draft that SWAC was working on before things sort of ground to a halt and switched to this process, because I think there it's spelled out pretty clearly what's meant by a SMMP. That's what, Daniel worked on this and brought over whole paragraphs explaining the concept. And I think if people just, there's other things in the draft that needed a lot of work, I think, but if people just understand what those major concepts are and actually have a look at them, that would be really helpful as a starting point.
So Dan, is that something that you can do, like copy and paste over at least the sort of the general context setting sections of it?
Sure. I think I have a different recommendation, and that's to just use the state's kind of explanation of this in their latest materials management framework. It's just a really effective, easy way to understand the difference between sustainable materials management planning and solid waste management planning. And I think that's a great recommendation, Joel, to explain that. But I'm happy I think copy and pasting that version would kind of be more clear and easy for people to digest.
Yeah, because the other one had a lot of stuff in it, so that'd be easier.
Yeah, and that's the direction that we were following, and our program is following. So I think that'll be kind of going to the top.
Yeah.
And didn't one of you send in an email this morning about some with a text in it? Is that you, John?
Yeah, it was me.
Why don't you remind folks what you sent in?
It was a tool that EPA has on their website that enables you to see various aspects of materials management planning. And EPA is a major supporter of sustainable materials management in the way that Joel has presented, and I agree with. And so there's a lot of elements there that could be considered, and it's a tool that enables you to look at how much each effort, like such as zero waste or waste prevention versus other strategies, how much they impact a community and cost benefit.
So Daniel, why don't we add that to this opening, sort of memo setting expectations for the next meeting?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I just noticed, because my screen was funky for a minute, that Ken Eklund has joined us. And Ken, I sent an email to Ken sometime earlier today, telling him about this committee. And Ken, I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to the group, introduce yourself, and see if you want to be formally added to this group.
Sure, hang on. Turning on my camera.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Ken Eklund. I'm the chairman of the Solid Waste Advisory Council and also of the Disposal Site Advisory Committee for Benton County. So I'm tuning in. I'm very liking the conversation. I'm sorry that I got here late. I'm happy for the moment to just sit. It sounds like there are very good people on the committee already, and so I'll figure out if I want to join the committee, I guess, at some point after this. After talking with some people.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
All right. So let's segue a little bit to what do you all think would be helpful to present to the work group on Thursday. Each of the subcommittees has like 15 to 20 minutes to introduce themselves and frankly tell the work group what it is you want to tell them, and ask the work group for any input you would like from them, and then maybe update them as to, so far we've got 2 additional subcommittees and they're on, the second Thursdays of every month or whatever you want to do. And so they can be brought into the work that's going on between meetings.
Are you asking for content, Sam? Like what should be included in that update?
Yeah. Well, Marge?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if the whole work group could see that document sans all the detail. That the work group in general could maybe see that skeletal outline and also, make comments if they wanted to, or rate, or, like say, this is important, but maybe it should be called this, or stuff like that, but at a higher level, at a high level.
Let me be a little bit more specific. I mean, my half-formed or malformed vision is that 1 or 2 of you, plus Daniel, present a subcommittee report / facilitated discussion at Thursday's meeting. And perhaps it starts off with, here are the members of the subcommittee. Here's a reminder of what charge C is. We've met one time simply to stand up the committee and scope it. We're planning to do the following 3 major tasks. We have we have X number of meetings planned, and here is the skeleton outline of the draft table of contents concept for further development. I mean, it's something does that make sense, or add, subtract to that?
Makes sense to me.
That is exact. I had my hand raised before you started.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, but you saved me talking, because that's really what I would have said is basically we can only report on what we've been talking about so far, which is really the scope of the committee, its tasks, how we're setting out to do it, and this discussion of the skeleton of the table of contents, so that we understand the context better of what we're expecting from a potential consultant.
Yeah.
Any additions, subtractions, or corrections to that general outline?
I just want to underline the last thing that he said is that this is what we expect from the consultant, because I think that's, as you had said, is an important, how do you say, charge for this group is to present something to a consultant who would then write this plan for us.
All right. Daniel?
And I'm not sure, I didn't catch an addition of values and goals discussion in there, but just mentioning that we're reviewing values and goals, and we might be diving into exploring what other jurisdictions have done in more detail to set kind of an example.
Yes, add those.
Yeah.
So
I agree, that's important.
do I have 2 volunteers that would like to be the spokespeople for purposes of Thursday's meeting with Daniel? It'd be like a triumvirate of clear thought.
I volunteer as long as Daniel helps put the list together of what to talk about.
Sure, happy to.
One more. I mean, you don't have to, and we can do this whoever wants to do it, but I don't want this to be a staff facilitator show. I want this to be a work group / subcommittee show on these subcommittee reports.
I'll volunteer.
Thanks, Marge. Okay, so we have the clear thinkers being John, Marge, and Daniel. He'll get this 1-page, 2-page document together to get it to you in advance. And it may well be that we're not going to get it out to the work group itself in advance, but it'll have to be something that's presented at Thursday's meeting. Maybe in a perfect world, we could get it out Wednesday evening, but let's see how the week goes. So the final topic is to figure out meeting times and how many times we think we're going to need to meet, and how long, and then of course is this a standing time, and when do we start those meetings? So I mean, my intuition is that I suspect you're going to have to probably meet 2 times in between each work group meeting to get the work done to present it. But we'll just have to see how that goes. And maybe the most we can do for this meeting is schedule 2 times to meet between now and our next meeting, which is likely to come up on November 17th. And then maybe we only get 1 meeting in between now and then, but assuming the board approves this updated work plan, the next meeting is on November 17th. So is there certain times of day or days of the week that we could do a standing committee meeting?
I should, for November, basically the entire November 4th until November 15th are completely out for me.
Yeah, you're got a big client or something out of town, right?
Out of the country, yeah.
Yeah. Ken?
I will stand in for you, Joel.
Okay, that'd be nice.
Should I do this is almost an impossible task. Anyway, should I just do another doodle poll for all of you saying, here is a series of dates and times for 2 meetings between now and a few days before the 17th, call it maybe between now and the 14th of November. I don't know where that, and then see. John?
Yeah,
And
I think
Daniel?
that's probably the best way to go about it, because we would have got 8 people on this group, or how many?
Well, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, it's really people whose cameras are visible. And so it's not too large a group at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're trying to set something more standing, you could try polling the group by day of the week in general, but then there's always going to be a chance there's something planned, especially in the short term. But if this is going to be recurring in between the work group meetings, it might be best just to list some times in between those dates that we all poll on, and find at least one, and maybe that's up to you guys to decide if there's enough consensus on 1 or 2 dates.
Okay. Daniel, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. One thing I like to do with these meetings too is based on, that we're meeting today, I always like to throw out a similar meeting date just to see. So like my suggestion would be, how does 1 to 2:30 on the 7th look? And how does 1 to 2:30 on the 21st look? And just see if we happen to have consensus on that.
So you're looking at November 7. Is that
2 weeks,
right?
yeah, 2 weeks from today, and then 2 weeks from that day. Mondays from 1 to 2:30.
7 and 14.
Yep. Sorry, 7 and 21.
7 and 21, my bad. So if you could show your thumbs up if that works. We know it doesn't work for Joel. Looking for John. So we got, yeah, Ken said yes, I see. John, you're on mute, buddy.
Restate that, please.
We're looking at same time, 1 to 2:30 on November 7 and November, well,
21.
Daniel, that's only one meeting between now. The next meeting is November 17th.
Okay, sorry about that.
So, I think I'm trying to get to my calendar too, but that'll be less important. So I think we should meet on the 7th. Can we also meet on the 14th? Really?
I'm good on both of those.
Thumbs up around, Sean? Okay, so we're good to go. I'll send out meeting invites for 11, 7, 11, 14, 1 to 2:30. So we'll do that. Thank you. That was fantastic. I guess last call for the good of the order for this initial meeting.
Thank you very much for facilitating.
Oh, it's nothing. You guys, this is my intention is to just be there to have you have the conversation and for you to start having the chance to dive into this work here and get out, the documents you want to send to the full work group. Last call. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.